All right, y'all, it is time for Flash Chat, okay? Flash Chat Live on Facebook Live. And for those of you that are listening on the podcast, Flash Chat happens every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time after a new episode of The Flash. So you can join in on Twitter. Find me on Twitter, DT2 Comics Chat. Find me on Facebook, my Facebook Live page, DT2 Comics Chat. And then I'll read your tweets and I'll read some of your answers live on the air. All right, so we are going to get started and jump on in. I'm going to be reading the questions, reading your answers, and typing in my own answers. Question number 1. Which time travel theory does the Flash use? That there's only one timeline? That the past changes the future? That the past can't be changed? That the future can't be changed? Okay? And the reason this can get confusing is because they seem to have different attitudes about time travel and changing the future every time it comes up and every time it happens. So what is it that they believe? What is it? That's what I'm typing. What is it exactly that they believe? Because if they can change the future, which they've done, then why would they be upset or why would they be afraid or, Now, I know that Barry said he saw billions of futures, but Iris came back with the right answer. Iris said, what about the billion at first? What about the billion at second? In other words, if there's an unlimited number of possibilities, that means by definition, it's not possible that you saw them all. And there's also, spoiler alert, reeks very much of the Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame, with Doctor Strange looking at all the future possibilities and seeing the only one in which the Avengers won, which required Tony's sacrifice. So if that's what they're trying to say, then, maybe we can go with that. But again, if there's an unlimited number of ones, Doctor Strange said he saw a smaller number than a billion. I forgot what the number is, but several hundred million or whatever, but it wasn't quite thing. But Doctor Strange was a little bit more comprehensive. He said he saw every possible outcome and wanted to orchestrate the only one in which the Avengers would win. That's not quite what Barry said. He said he saw billions, okay? But maybe, like Iris said, maybe there's one he didn't see, or maybe there's one he didn't let play out or whatever. But, we got to understand what type of time travel theory do they subscribe to? The Terminator model is the past affects the future, but it's all one timeline. Because if it wasn't all one timeline, there was no need to send Terminators back in time to try to kill Sarah and John if Skynet didn't think the world would change around them once they die. Just think about that. That means there can only be one timeline. So if you're here in the future and you send somebody to jump back here in the past, if you change the past, that means you expect what is your present to change around you because there's only one timeline. If you go with the Back to the Future model, what that means is that you're here in your present, which might be the future, and if somebody goes back in time, it creates an alternate line. You're not backwards. I'm looking at myself. It creates an alternate line, and the new timeline veers off in a different direction because you changed the past. But then some theories say that all of those possibilities exist all the time and that you're just tapping into all of the different chances that they were all there. And then some believe in the parallel Earth theory, which isn't the same thing. The parallel Earth theory says that there's different dimensions and different Earths where all those paths were taken, as opposed to all of them being in the same space and you tapped into a different one. Okay? So I know it's confusing and I know it's just, theoretical science, but they really need to clear it up. The timeline is okay. Critical Blast says the timeline is malleable. Okay. Absolutely great answer. Now, when Thawne discovered that the timeline was malleable, does that negate Barry being able to save his mom? Because if you're going to say that the timeline is malleable, then I'm not trying to hear this fixed points in time stuff that can't change. Okay? That doesn't make any sense. That makes absolutely no sense. If you're going to say that there's some points in time that can't be changed, because that's what they tried to say about why Barry couldn't save his mom, because that Nora Allen had to die, because there's fixed points in the timeline that can't be changed, then how is the timeline malleable if it is indeed malleable or changeable or moldable, or you can do what you want to do with it? Because it doesn't seem like to me you can have both of those. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Okay? Okay, Mauricio in Realidad Nuoso says, I believe in one timeline. Okay? It has to be that if the past changes the future, that means there should be a way out for this. Okay? Now, all of this is leading up to Crisis on Infinite Earths. And for those of you that may or may not be familiar with the comics, in Crisis on Infinite Earths, long story short, Barry Allen has to sacrifice himself to save the universe. And if you saw the episode, you saw Barry seeing that future where he's running, then he starts to disintegrate. That's kind of what happened in the comic. Not quite like that, but that was the idea. And also Supergirl dies too. So I doubt very seriously if Kara dies in this one that they're going to do on the CW. And the Monitor said, and we're going to talk about it some more, that Flash must die. He did not say that Barry Allen must die. So I think that's their way out. So they're going to kill Barry from another timeline, or they might kill Earth 90, Flash, John Wesley Shipp, or something, or it might be a time remnant, whatever. It may not be our Barry, but I think that's their way out. Okay? Okay, Polly, I write things, P_Makor says, the real question is, do they even know? Ouch. So in other words, is there a consistent application of the time travel theory on the Flash? And most of us say no, because it's confusing, okay? All right. I'm gonna jump to question 2. Question 2 is, oh my word, I absolutely do not agree with turning Killer Frost more human. Her voice and eyes make her distinctive. I think this was a huge misstep, agree or not? That's question number 2. Now, me, I'm a comics creator and I love character design. I love creating originality in characters, but I think that the distinctive parts of a character are what make that character interesting. And they keep seeming like they're trying to turn Killer Frost more and more like Katie, or they're trying to dial down everything about her that makes her distinctive. And I don't agree with that. Okay, when we first meet her, she's a force of nature when she was evil. She was a force of nature, man. They were scared of her. She knew all the secrets. She was doing a whole bunch of stuff. But now I think she's supposed to stick with, they should have kept in, the eyes and the voice, everything. So budgetary concerns, if they're going to give Killer Frost more airtime, I understand it's cheaper for them to take away her frosty eyes and her frosty voice. But character-wise, I think that just nerfs her even more, okay? Get Doc Simpson, okay? Talking to Critical Blast, he says, why did her voice do that in the first place? Could have sounded icier, except she's not made of ice. Get Doc Samson, that's from Marvel, to merge these personalities into one. But I'm saying it kills her distinctiveness. It was better when she was an evil force of nature, because it was, okay? And she should keep that unique look and sound. But they're dealing with this whole thing about putting Killer Frost in the driver's seat, whatever that means, and that she's supposed to have a life, Okay, I'm reading a tweet from Mike. I have to read that later. Okay, Polly says, question 2. Answer 2, I'm not sure if this is where I put it, but I have a huge problem with this. Okay, this is getting personal. My daughter, Michelle, has been through 6 surgeries on her face. The Flash has been there for her for the past 3. John Wesley Shipp has messaged her in the hospital. It got her through. Wow. Did not know that. Wow. Okay, so that was one of two. So I'm going to read the other one when she posted. Here goes. But when Killer Frost decided she wanted to change how she looked to fit in, she looked at me and said, I don't fit in either. Can Cisco make me look like everyone else? My heart shattered. I hate this Killer Frost human thing. Sometimes we need to be okay with different. And I'm going to say to Polly, wow, I had no idea about any of that. And as a parent, I totally feel for you and with you because I do. Because one of the things that you have to deal with as a parent is self-acceptance. Let me write that down. One of the biggest issues we have to teach our children is self-acceptance. Because you are never going to be anybody else but you. Okay, did you think about that? You are never going to be anybody else but you. And so what Polly's saying here is that Killer Frost as a character and Killer Frost as a concept on this TV show was encouraging her daughter into self-acceptance, even though Killer Frost herself is different, and now they're stripping away those differences to help her fit in. See, now that's a real world. That's why when people tell me things like, they're just comic books or just fictional characters, it's just a show, all of that is true, but it has a real life impact. We are inspired by these characters and these actors, because Danielle Panabaker is the sweetest actress, man. She comes early, she stays late at conventions, she spends extra time talking to fans, signing autographs, taking pictures. She goes out of her way to be kind to fans of The Flash and people that support her work. So you can't tell me that even though the characters in the show is fictional, that there is not a real life impact, because there is. And I agree with Polly. As a parent, we've got to deal with issues of self-acceptance. And just, wow, that was, wow. Okay, Mauricio says, I think we enter into the horrible black hole of making the charismatic villain more human and empathetic. Okay. And I agree that we do not need to humanize or empathize with villains. Why? Why is that necessary? Okay, why is it necessary for us to empathize with the villain or that they become more human? Why? Okay, now I just did a podcast about the Joker, about that very thing, and you can find that on Sloppy Spoilers on United Capes Podcast Network. Okay, Comic Crusaders. I did a podcast about the Joker movie where we talked about those issues, about mental health issues versus villainy issues, and they're two separate things. And sometimes when they're wrapped up in one character, then sometimes people might think that the wrong idea is being conveyed. That's part of the controversy that was going on with the Joker. I'm going to retweet what Polly said because what she said was so powerful about how Killer Frost being different and John Wesley Shipp messaging her in the hospital. See, those are actors reaching out, touching our lives for real. Okay? All right. Okay, now we're going to move on to question 3. Question 3, I said, and speaking of wrong turns, do they have to teach Killer Frost about art? Do you remember how Katie frosted out even when she was a child? What about when Caitlin tended bar? Killer Frost is not new to the world. Do not like, yes or no? I do not like this idea that somehow Killer Frost doesn't know anything about art. This is her first exposure to it. Do you remember when she was working for Amunet and just a whole bunch of things? You're trying to tell me that in all her travels and all her journeys, whether Caitlin was in the driver's seat or Killer Frost was, that Killer Frost never knew what an art gallery was? She never came across an art exhibit? No. Just no. No. No, that doesn't even make any sense. Okay? So, okay. Mauricio on question number 3 says, I think one thing is that a character appears regularly at times and another very different in that it has long periods. I think Killer Frost is not used to a normal life. Okay, and I'm typing, I agree with that completely, but she is not new to the world. Okay, that's the thing. Killer Frost is not new to the world, and they're playing this. They're trying to act like somehow, again, she's never run across any type of professional art or art exhibits. No. Okay. All right. I'm going to read Polly's tweet again. Man, these answers are moving. Polly says, again, for answer 2, they need to watch what message they are saying. I'm here in tears just thinking about it from last week. She's my hero, talking about Killer Frost. I never want her to think she doesn't fit in and needs to change to be human. And I am typing again, wow. I am moved by what you're saying and in total agreement. And I'm writing fictional characters with a real world impact. Fictional characters with a real world impact. That's absolutely right. I'm going to retweet that one as well. All right. Okay. All right. We're going to jump on to question 4. I know these questions are coming fast and furious, but people are giving me a lot of answers too. I just want to be sure I read them so people can hear them. Question number 4. Wait a minute. Did they just gloss over Barry creating mobile Gideon? Does anybody else want to see Barry science more? Now, one of the longest running issues or things we've had about The Flash is that it was revealed several seasons ago. I don't quite remember when they did it. Season 1 or 2. I think it was season 1. They revealed that Barry Allen created Gideon. If Barry's got the technology, even if it's future tech or he's got the know-how or whatever to create Gideon, then I've personally always felt that I want to see more of Science Barry. There's something in the comics that they don't do on the show. In the comics, there's something called Flash Facts. Flash Facts. And in the comics, what happens is that Barry Allen, along with Jay Garrick and other speedsters, study the science of speed and how to use their speed in strategic ways. The laws of physics and, things about velocity and things about vibrating their molecules and ways, and things about lightning. And then when they got the Speed Force powers about stealing speed and all that, okay? All of that is in the comics. We don't see any of that on the regular on the TV show. I don't even know if this Barry has ever even uttered the words Flash Facts. I personally want to see more of Science Barry, okay? The Barry that studies speed and studies how to use his powers, okay? Okay, Chris Colfer fan of old shows, that's his Twitter handle, fan of old shows, says, answer 4, I think they did just gloss over it. I do want to see Barry do more science, okay? And I'm typing exactly. He created Gideon in the first place, and there is no use of a Flash trademark, which is Flash Facts on the show, okay? And I'm going to say the same thing to Polly. Let me read Polly's answer to question 4. It was totally just brushed aside. More Science Barry, please. We completely didn't get to see him make the OG Gideon, which is true. We should enjoy watching him science the mobile one. Agree completely. Okay, I'm typing. Agree completely. And we need to see the use of Flash Facts on this show. Barry studying speed and its physics and learning how to use his speed more strategically, okay? That is, again, like I was talking about earlier, that is one of the signature moves of Barry Allen. That is one of the signature things about being a Flash, about being the Flash. And why is that not on the show? Okay, Barry Allen is smart enough to do all that. Okay, here comes J. David Clark. J_David__Clark with an E is his Twitter handle. Answer one, it said he uses the theory that whatever is needed for the plot to work out is what happens to time. Okay, that is sad but true. That is sad but true. They use multiple time travel theories on the show based solely on what the plot requires, which is true. They do. And I'm getting hungry, but then again, that is not news for me. Okay, here comes Ashley. Okay, Ashley, her Twitter handle is, well, it's actually Ash, but the A is the @ symbol. Ash, yes, please. She's answering question 3. Hold on, let me read her full answer. Okay. Part 1, her randomly learning about art is weird, but I'm hoping that this is actually something that is going to come up again later down the season. But yeah, I'd rather learn the deeper stuff about Frost, but maybe art will help her get to that. Shrug. And part 2 is, as for her not being new, she both is and isn't. She doesn't have enough experience being in control of Caitlyn's body that isn't monopolized by a villain giving her orders. Therefore, a lot of this stuff really is new to her, my 2 cents. And I'm going to say, I understand, but disagree, because she's had plenty of exposure to the real world, and it's been proven. Remember her conversation with Ralph, that she has instant access to Caitlyn's memories, because she does. That's been proven over and over and over again. Okay, let me read Polly's tweet. I saw this really good. Polly's answering question number 2. Okay, isn't that why we love comics? They have flaws, disabilities, and they are heroes we look up to. Kids especially look up to. They are an escape from the norm for a little bit, not there to make us feel worthless, but hope we are worth it. And I'm going to type, again, agree completely, because we need hope. The first comic of the Nephilim Wars will be a mini-comic published online for free. One new page will publish every Friday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. If you enjoy this comic, you can get some exclusive content from it on Patreon. For a $2 pledge, which is only about 7 cents a day, you get exclusive black and white versions of the cover and the comic pages available only on Patreon, a black and white PDF of the finished mini-comic. For a $5 pledge, which is only about 17 cents a day, you get all of the above plus a pre-release view of all the color pages. For a $10 pledge, which is only 33 cents a day, you get all of the above plus a color PDF of the finished mini-comic and a chance to actually cameo in the comic when you sign an image release. If we can reach the first goal of $2,500, we can get the full color 24-page comic produced. Woohoo! Remember, you get a bunch of exclusive stuff on Patreon that you can't find anywhere else. The Nephilim Wars have started. You'll want to know what happens next. That's what our fictional characters do through the escapism. I keep trying to tell people, entertainment is important. Fictional heroes are important. Stories are important. You know, lore, mythology, those things are important. I know I'm biased because I'm a writer, but just because I'm biased and I'm a writer doesn't make it not true. Okay? A lot of people say, well, you're biased. You can be biased, but being biased about something does not invalidate that something just because there are biases about it. And I know I'm biased because I'm a writer, because I love comics, and because I've been reading since I was 4 years old. But mythology and lore and fictional heroes and stories, and remember that scene in Return of the Jedi where 3PO is sitting around with the Ewoks and telling them the story thus far, and the little Ewoks, and everybody's all afraid because he's communicating to them what everybody's been through. That's how people bond over storytelling time, and that's how the Ewoks understood who Han, Luke, and Leia, and Chewie were by 3PO telling them that story after they decided not to cook them and eat them. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's legit and it's real, and it has a lot of commercial value, but it also has a lot of social value. Okay? I'm also going to retweet that what Polly said because it was so powerful. Okay? All right. Okay, question number 5. Question number 5 is, it's always great to see John Wesley Shipp, and it is. He's a great actor. He's a great person. We loved him as 90s Flash. We love him as Henry Allen. We love him as Jay Garrick. If you think about it, has there ever been anything you've seen John Wesley Shipp in that you didn't love him in? He's fantastic, fantastic actor, fantastic person. It's always great to see John Wesley Shipp, but here's my question. If the speed of flashes is based on the Speed Force, speedsters shouldn't lose it with age because it was never age dependent, yes? Okay, so when Jay Garrick is talking about losing his speed with age, okay, that speed was never based on his muscles. That speed was based on the Speed Force and his ability to tap into it. Now, if they're saying that his ability to tap into it lessens with age, maybe, okay, maybe I can buy that. But if that's not the case, then, you know, again, it's not based on his muscles. It's not based on a human capacity for breathing. Because remember, that super speed requires the most secondary powers. So if you ever were to get super speed, you would need the most secondary powers to uphold that speed, or else it would just be a curse. Your bones would fly out of your body every time you stopped. You'd break your ankles every time you stopped. Once you go fast enough, you hit the ground and you lift up and you start flying. Just because you can run that fast doesn't mean you can see that fast. And sound, how does the sound reach your ears when you're moving that fast? There's just so much that comes along with super speed that you need a lot of secondary powers. So the Speed Force is kind of like the magic explanation for all things flashes, all things speedsters. But is it age dependent? Okay, so let me read some answers to that. And Chris Colfer, fan of old shows, says, I think you are correct. Okay, Polly says, again, P_Macor, M-A-C-H-E-R is a Twitter handle. Yeah, it's not like Breacher. Actually, the Speed Force keeps them from aging quickly as everyone else. But John Wesley Shipp is a real life hero in this house. Sorry for so many pictures this week, just last week, and I know he's a hero. And I'm gonna say, no, John. Okay, I'm tagging him in this tweet now. I don't normally tag celebrities, but I'm tagging him. I know John Wesley Shipp is a hero. He always has been. Okay, so I'm tagging Mr. Shipp in that tweet. Okay. Okay, to question number 5. J. David Clark, J_David_Clark with an E, says, it didn't really bother me. I just figured the ability to access the Speed Force is like anything else. Over time, you can't do it as well as you used to. Past your prime is past your prime, even with superpowers. Okay, so I'm going to say, so he was saying it's the access to the Speed Force that wanes with age. But doesn't the Speed Force even slow down their aging as speedsters? Okay, and I'm going to tag Polly in that answer because, again, if it does slow down their aging, then, you know, but I think that should have been clearer. If we're saying that it does diminish with your age, they just need to make that clear. I'm going to say to Polly, no worries whatsoever. Okay. She said she was trying to express that stuff about Killer Frost somewhere. She tried the night of the show and it was brushed over. I was even called a hater. Okay, there's none of that in Flash Chat, just so you guys know. We're not ragging on each other. We're not attacking people. We're not calling each other's name. I do not allow that in Flash Chat. And if you try to come on my timeline or jump in Flash Chat with that kind of mess, you're going to get blocked and you're going to get reported. We talk about the show. We dissect the issues of the show. We talk about all those different kinds of things, but we do not attack each other. We do not call each other names. People have a right to their opinions, and I require that you express those opinions respectfully, okay? Or else you're not going to participate. Simple as that, okay? Okay, now going back to question 3, I think Ashley has a great answer here. She says, just because Killer Frost has access to those memories, and we don't always know how long those memories she has, since it looks like she got cut off sometime, doesn't mean she knows how to interpret them and feel them because she didn't firsthand experience them. And I'm going to say that is actually a great perspective. I don't know that I fully agree with it, but I can see where that's coming from. And this is why I love Flash Chat. I love talking to my folks. I love their intelligent, well thought out answers. I love looking at things from different angles. I love people teaching me things and showing things to me I hadn't thought of. I love it. That's why I do it. Okay? All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Question 6. I know this is going fast, but Flash Chat is always fast. Okay, it's the fastest hour on the internet. Question 6. Maybe it's just the way Michelle Harrison played her, but Joan Garrick looks like she somehow already knows she looks like Barry's mom. Agree or disagree? Okay. Answer 6. Chris Kofer fan says, I agree with this 100%. J. David Clark says, agree, she definitely played it like she had a sense of it somehow. Polly says, agreed. I think she knew as soon as she heard that Jay looked like Barry's father. Maybe such a strong soulmate connection is a multiversal thing. It was great to see her again. Now that's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to do the let me think about that emoji, the emoji. Now that's interesting. Do you think that there's actually a soul-to-soul connection with all beings throughout the multiverses? And when I say that, I'm thinking about when our Kara discovered that in Earth X, Dark Supergirl or Overgirl was married to Dark Arrow. That version of Kara was married to Dark Arrow in Earth X. I personally loved them. I was surprised. Both of them played it so well. I mean, Stephen Amell normally plays this version of Oliver Queen, our Oliver, pretty dark anyway, but there was an even greater level of intensity for Dark Arrow during the crossover Earth X. But it was Melissa Benoit, because I know Benoist, but the way you're supposed to say it is Benoit. Melissa Benoit played Dark Supergirl or Overgirl. Man, I was impressed with that. I was like, wow, I wanted to see some more of them because as a couple, I completely bought them. I completely bought them as a couple, but our car was like, ew. So I guess Oliver isn't her type in this universe, but it just makes me think, you know, is there a soul-to-soul connection in all the characters across the multiverse? And that would really be something. Now, I'm just going to throw this in. That whole "you're my lightning rod" thing, they used that in the show, that does not belong to Barry and Iris. That belongs to Wally and Linda. See, I need to do a whole podcast about Wally and Linda, because those of you that don't read comic books, that just watched the TV show, or you just saw the Flash like in the major motion pictures in Justice League, have no idea who Wally West is. Unless you know him from Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, unless you know him from the animated shows, because Wally was the Flash in those shows. But in the comics, Wally West and Linda Park had one of the greatest love stories and one of the greatest love relationships ever been written in comics. And they were a great couple, and they are a great couple, and they're an iconic couple. Well, long story short, when Wally disappeared into the Speed Force, way back during Wade's run, you know, somebody else came back, John Fox came back, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Wally found his way back to his proper timeline because of his love for Linda. His love for Linda was his anchor to find his way out of the Speed Force back into time. and he said, "You are my lightning rod." They used that on the TV show, but that does not belong to Barry and Iris. That belongs to Wally and Linda. And the version of Linda that they have on the show was somehow dating Barry. In the comics, that's Wally's wife, and Ginger Wally, not Black Wally. Because there's New 52 Wally, because the West family is African American in one incarnation, and there's Black Wally West. But I'm talking about original Wally West, Ginger Wally. His wife, Linda, was his lightning rod. That's where that comes from, just FYI, which is why I say it all the time. You need to read comic books. I say it all the time. You need to read comic books, because I believe that. Okay? Okay, Jonathan Porter, JP Money, 1999, love that handle, says he didn't mind the Killer Frost change. You have to remember Danielle has to wear those contacts that change her color, and that can be uncomfortable. You have to not always think about the character and think about the actors themselves and if they're comfortable. And I'm going to say that that is a really good practical point. Maybe Danielle was getting tired of that, and if Killer Frost, I wrote Killer Frost was going to get more screen time, she couldn't do it for that long. Because, shooting days on set is like 14, 16 hours a day. So maybe that's a long time to be in those contacts. So that's a good point. Okay. Fabiola _CEJKU says, back to question 1, they use the exact time travel theory that they like to base their season off. In season 1, they're afraid of changing the past so it affects the future. But since then, it's been crazy. And I am going to write, once again, 100% agree, because that is true. Because that was one of the things Killer Frost pointed out to Barry back when she was still angry and evil, that Barry only stopped changing the timeline when he got what he wanted, okay? As soon as he ended up with Iris, because remember, it was Flashpoint that caused Caitlin to get her frost powers. She didn't have them. Remember that Harry from Earth 2 tested her for metahuman genes and she came up human. She only got her frost powers when Barry was doing that Flashpoint thing. That's when all that started. And Killer Frost rightfully called Barry out and said, you only stopped messing with time when you wanted because you got Iris. But he wouldn't bring Dante back for Cisco, and Caitlin lost Ronnie twice. You remember that? She lost Ronnie once in the particle accelerator explosion, and then lost him again when he was stopping the vortex above the city. Man, she lost her husband twice. Holy cow. Okay, Mauricio, en realidad, Nuoso, says, that's his Twitter handle, says, again, on question 5, that makes no sense. The only problem I see is that perhaps being older, the use of the Speed Force and everything that involves being the Flash could cause you more wear and damage biologically speaking. Okay, and to that I'm going to say, great point. The Speed Force obviously protects your body because remember, friction, if nothing else, would set you on fire, but maybe it doesn't do so in the same way over the course of your life. Okay? All right. Now, I just got an idea for a story, and I'm not going to tell you what that idea is, but I'm going to write it down on my super secret writing place because I think it's a great idea. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm looking for some more answers because my timeline always fills up very, very quickly. All right, question number 5, back to about John Wesley Shipp and Jay Garrick. It does, according to the comics and the show itself, Barry and the others will not age as fast as those around him. Maybe Jay is in his hundreds. I don't think it's ever been said, okay? They need to clarify that because it's a serious plot point if he's over 100 years old. That means he should be mentoring big time. Okay? And that's something that I thought when they brought Jay Garrick on in season 2, the real Jay Garrick, not Zoom, not fake Jay. That's what I thought Jay Garrick was going to do. That's what I thought his role was going to be for sure. I thought for sure he was going to mentor Barry directly, like he was going to be there every week teaching him some more things about speed and the Speed Force, but that didn't happen. They just had intermittent conversations, and that still confuses me to this day. But if he is over 100 years old, then Jay Garrick has a responsibility to be mentoring all those other speedsters. Seriously. Okay. Fabiolo, back to answer question 2, says that she's trying to fit in Killer Frost, but they're getting, or maybe they're forgetting the whole point of Killer Frost, or they're not getting the whole point. She's trying to be human and have a normal life. It isn't possible. She is meta, or whatever the writers have in mind now. And I'm going to say, that's what I hope comes out. I hope that they realize that Killer Frost is not Caitlin, is not human, and is not supposed to fit in, because she's not. I'm putting fit in and, quotes fit in. Because she's not supposed to. She's supposed to stand out. She's supposed to be exactly who she is, and I don't like them trying to tone that down. Okay? All right. All right. Okay, Fabiolo answering question 3 says, art is some form of expression. They're trying to make her different from Caitlin since she is into science. That's okay, but Team Flash needs a medic. And as funny as that scene with Ralph and his sunburn scene, it just didn't look right. And to that, I'm going to say, I agree. Caitlin would have never just walked away and said that was Ralph's problem. She would have done everything in her power to heal him, because she would have, because that's who our lovely Caitlin Snow is. So I hope they realize really quickly that putting Killer Frost in the driver's seat is not the way to go, and making her more human is not the way to go as far as I'm concerned. Okay? All right, let's jump on to question number 7. Question number 7 is Iris, Cecile, Camilla, the new Flash C team, because the B team is Caitlin, Vibe, and Ralph. Oh Lord, I just knocked my, hold on, I just knocked my adapter out of the wall, because that happens sometimes. Okay, so A team is Barry and Iris. B team is Vibe, Killer Frost, and Elongated Man. C team is Iris, Cecile, and Camilla, and sometimes Joe. Okay? Do you like their dynamic? Okay? Chris Colfer fan of old show, says, my opinion might change in the future, but as of now, I do. Polly says, same. It could change because I can see this quickly coming to the foreground and not being supporting rules as it should be written. For now, I like it, though. Okay, and to that, I'm going to say, then do you want to see more adventures with them? Okay? Now, my thing is, my personal answer to that question is, I want the Flash TV show to be about Barry. Okay? I want Barry to get the most airtime on his own show. And I'm unapologetic. And if you don't like that, then oh well, because the name of the show is The Flash. And that's who I tuned in to see. That's who I signed up to see. And that's who I want to see get the most attention, the most development, be the leader. That's who I want to see. Okay? I want to see more of the costume coming out the ring. I want to see the flashbacks. I want to see him studying his speed. I want to see him building Gideon. I want to see him increasing in speed every year as he learns how to master his powers. I want to see all that. Okay? Just putting it out there. Okay? All right. Fabiolo on question 7 says, yes, Iris bonds well with these ladies. Found it strange that they never wrote proper dialogue for her with Caitlin. The point is that science doesn't mix well with the rest. Just a stereotype, but people with same careers have better relationships, not just love-wise. And I'm going to say, now, that's really interesting. I don't think that Frost ever really liked Iris, and so maybe Caitlin can sense that too and stays away. Or they all know that Caitlin loves Barry too, because she does. Okay? Caitlin loves Barry just like Iris does. Okay? She made that clear in the first season when she basically practically threw herself at him, talking about somebody new to be obsessed over and summer loving and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going through the whole reason that, Snowberry works. But anyway, okay. All right. Let's keep going. Okay, question number 8. Question number 8 is, I like the creative time travel idea, projecting one's mind through the wall, but wouldn't Barry need both more mind and molecular control to pull that off, like Jean would have? When I'm talking about Jean, I'm talking about Jean Jones or Martian Manhunter. You probably know him by Martian Manhunter instead of, Jean Jeans or Jean Jones. But Martian Manhunter. Martians in general have the mental control, but they have control over every molecule in their bodies. Martians do. So it seems like to me that projecting one's mind through the wall, I understood why Jay said only a speedster could do it because only a speedster could react to all those images. But it seems like to me that Barry would need more mental control. He'd have to be more of a telepath and need more molecular control for his mind to be able to survive all that. Because just because you move at super speed, it does not increase your capacity to handle data in terms of quantity. It's all coming at you fast, okay? But that doesn't make your brain bigger. You see what I mean? So anyway, that's just what I'm thinking. Let me read some answers to that. Polly says, it did seem out of the bounds of what he can normally do, but I was glad Barry was doing something sciencey and comic combo-y instead of just doing nothing. Nice to see. That's kind of true, because sometimes, Barry's a guest star in his own TV show, okay? Fabiolo says, that's true. I was expecting to see whether they were playing the card with Wally's powers of traveling to the end of time. Sorry, but I think that he's more Wally than actually Barry, but they did something that didn't make much sense. And I'm going to answer to that. All of that is true. And it reminds us that this version of Barry is much more like Ginger Wally from the comics, because he is. I love Grant Gustin. I love his portrayal of Barry Allen, but this is not traditional Barry Allen. This is much more Wally as Barry than it is anything else. But again, you'd have to read comics to know that. But if you saw Michael Rosenbaum voicing the Flash on Justice League and Justice League Animated, you get more of a sense of the kind of Flash that Wally was. Okay? And also, spoiler alert, remember that Barry travels back in time to become the lightning bolt that struck him. That's how the Flash ends, by the way, if you didn't know that. That happens in the comics, and I'm sure that's going to happen here. But if that's too much of a spoiler for you, I won't go into any more details. But yeah. Okay, now Mauricio echoes my thoughts perfectly, and I'm going to say that. Mauricio says, to answer to the question about the time travel thing with the mind, question 8, he says that would mean bringing another character to do something that the protagonist could perfectly do. I think we have already forgotten that this is about Barry Allen and not about a group of people. Again, that is definitely what I think as well. Is definitely what I think as well. But I think Jay should have given Barry more mental and molecular training to pull something like that off. Okay? Because I think he should have. I understand, that it messed up in the middle, and I understand that Barry synapses got overloaded. They had to pull him out. But, and Jay Garrick said, only a speedster in their prime could do it. I get all that, but I still say that it should have taken more and that Jay should have spent more time mentoring and training Barry with, more molecular control as a speedster and more mental control as a speedster and all that, because that whole thing, I think, was just next level. And if you really, I just want you to think about processing billions of realities and watching your friends die a billion times. What would that do to you? What would that do to you if you watched Iris, if you watched your wife die a billion times, if you watch all your friends, Cisco, Caitlin, Ralph, and everybody just, and then your dad, Barry's already watched both of his parents die in real time, but then to watch Joe West die and Cecile and just lose your family a billion times? Yeah, I don't know. That whole scene should have been more than what it was, as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to say that to J. David Clark. He said it didn't make much sense to me at all. And I'm going to say that whole scene should have been more than what it was, because it should have been. Okay, because it was just too much information, and the idea of it should have required more, should have absolutely required more. Okay, we're down to 10 more minutes, and I want to be sure to get the rest of the questions in. Question 9, I refuse to believe Barry experiences billions of futures. Know why? Because super speed doesn't give you unlimited mental or emotional capacity. It should have broken his psyche. Thoughts? So that's what I just said. Basically, question 9 is all the stuff I just been saying. But let me read some answers from the Flash chat group. Polly says, once again, the Flash is Doctor Strange. We had his portals that were to be black holes last week. Now we have his ability to see thousands of futures. I don't think he would have made it without a total mental breakdown. That's right. Fabiolo says, based on what was established in the first season, even with Barry becoming faster, he wouldn't be able to do that like all. This is not Doctor Strange, this is the Flash. Time travel, yes. Billions of futures on different timelines. That's a lot of energy, so it's a no from me. Thomas Mallory, T-Mal761 says, yeah, he probably should have been overwhelmed. This would have been more for Dr. Fate to deal with, unless this is a Barry-powered TV hasn't previewed us to. Then he says, not. All right. I'm going to keep moving because there's a couple more questions we want to get in. Okay. But I could spend some more time on that one. I probably will in the future. Question number 10. I don't know. Part of me feels like Barry and Iris, but especially Barry, gave in to this idea of inevitability too fast. They spent all of season 3 trying to change Iris's fate. Is Barry still too traumatized from losing Nora? Now, I mentioned that earlier in the broadcast, but, what Iris said to Barry was spot on. She said, what about the billion in first? What about the billion in second? So in other words, if the possibilities are actually unlimited, then maybe we should keep going until we find one where it doesn't require your sacrifice. And I agree with what Iris said completely. And then she said, the Barry I know would never stop running, right again. Both of those statements by Iris are spot on, okay? Okay, all right. The answer to that, some of these answers, Fabiolo says, Barry wanted to be a good father to Nora. This is the stress he's experiencing after losing her. He has a good heart. That's Barry, after all. Cannot do any harm, just good. Also, the writers are choosing a different path here from season 3, which is great. Polly says, I think he's digging into work like some people do when losing a child. Iris is trying to bring her back, keep her alive, at least the hope of her alive, and Barry is pushing out his pain with working. I think he's deeply traumatized. Now that's a great assessment. I'm typing that. That's a great assessment of those two and the way they're processing their stress over Nora. Okay? Because I personally think they got over it too fast. I personally think they got over Nora way too fast. You know, there ought to be, but you know, I guess they are kind of showing the lasting scars with this kind of attitude, but maybe it makes Barry just a little too pessimistic for my taste. I don't know. That could be wrong, but we'll see. Okay. Now I thought I saw Brian jump in. I definitely want to read his answers if he's jumped in here. Question 11, and this is the last one. Question 11. Back to this again. Infantilization. That word always gets me. Back to this again. The infantilization of Killer Frost absolutely galls me. Expressing herself with child drawings. Why are they demoting her to childlike status? That makes no sense whatsoever. Okay? Okay? Polly says, you know how I feel, and I agree. This demoting an adult to a child like being different is a disease. This demoting an adult to a child like demoting an adult to a child, comma, like being different is a disease has really disgusted me. Other things she could have done, photography, music, agreed. J. David Clark, agreed completely. Not a villain anymore, not a killer, and now she's comic relief. Oh my goodness, now you said something right there. Now you summed it up perfectly. She's no longer a villain. She's no longer the harsh truth teller that we love. Because that was one of the best parts of Killer Frost. She's not a killer. She's just a big, funny kid trying to find her way in this world. What the what? Like, what the what? No, I just don't. I don't like any of that. Okay, I don't like any of that about Killer Frost. Okay, let me try to read some more answers. We've got a few more minutes, and people are putting some answers on the timeline, and so I'm trying to keep up with them all. Okay, so I'm going to read those answers. I want to be sure I get my friends on here. Okay. All right, so here we go. Okay, Chris Colfer fan says he would like to see some more adventures with Team C, Cecile, Iris, and Camilla. Critical Blast asks, who invents Gideon in the first place? She's all over time in the Siri-verse. Computo? And I'm like, they said that Barry invents her. They said that Barry invents her. Gideon is, I don't know if she is now, but Gideon so far has been voiced by Morena Baccarin, if you didn't know that. You might know Morena from Gotham, but most of us know her from, and you also might know her from Deadpool, as Deadpool's girlfriend, but most of us know her as Inara Sarah from Firefly, okay? Holly says she wants to see more of Team C if they stay supporting characters. I agree, okay? Okay, Crombopolis Michael Turner, Shockwave75 says, as a parent, wow, that's heavy talking about Killer Frost inspiration, but if I may, what if this is just part of Killer Frost's journey? We've only had 2 episodes. Maybe right now Killer Frost thinks she has to look normal to fit in, but maybe she'll discover that isn't true. We still have 20 odd eps to go that may surprise you. Okay, I can receive that. That's a good idea. Okay. Okay, now here comes El Teco, my good friend Brian Lee Okert. Okay, Polly says to question number 5 about the aging thing in the Speed Force. In the show, he did say, I was married once before and she aged and passed on. He didn't. He didn't think at his age he would find anyone again. He is Jay, just to clarify. And Brian says, oh my God, that's kind of, oh my God, I didn't think about it. But Jay has seen Barry's family pics. He knows or should know what Barry's mom looked like. So for not to and have chosen randomly Barry's mom, something's up with Jay. Okay? Entirely possible. Okay. Critical Blast on question number 5 says the older body can't handle the stresses of speed, not to mention the speedster ages faster anyway because of all the relative time. Barry's probably a year older now than he should be because flash time. Okay, but the Speed Force is supposed to have the opposite effect. Supposed to have the opposite effect. It's supposed to slow aging down. See, we got these contradictory theories going on the show. Okay, all right. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, Brian O'Kurt says, again, talking about Jay. From what I understood, pre-Flash TV, basically a bit of comics, the Speed Force was shared, but a set force. If both Barry and Jay are accessing, they would only have 1/2 or so the power they normally do. TV show does not address that, so the handoff does not need to happen. And I'm like, that's the Marvels. Okay, I'll wait. I need to put the question number in there. Okay, now what he just said, that's the question 5. That's the Marvels. Okay, what I mean by the Marvels, that Captain Marvel Jr., Mary Marvel, they share the power. Okay, Captain Marvel, that y'all probably know as Shazam, was given that power by the Wizard, whose name is actually Shazam. I'm not going to that now. And when he asked the Wizard to let Mary and Freddy become Marvels as well, then he actually split his magic power with them. So Captain Marvel had, Billy, when he turned into Captain Marvel, had all the power of the 6 in his body, and then some of that gets siphoned on to power up Freddy and Mary. So the Marvels are the ones that share the power. I don't know that speedsters share the Speed Force in that way, meaning that when one is using it, that it's siphoning off available resources to other speedsters. Now, when Mark Waid wrote Terminal Velocity and Dead Heat, when we first meet Savitar, that did happen. But Savitar was purposely draining all of the Speed Force energy into himself and his acolytes, and the other speedsters started losing their speed and falling down and all that different kind of stuff. So that's how we get introduced to Savitar and the Speed Force in the comics. Okay? All right, y'all. Well, there is a lot more to say here, and I didn't even have time to read all of the answers to these questions, but Flash Chat is the fastest hour alive, okay? It's the fastest hour on the internet. So I want to thank everybody for joining me. I want to give a shout out to everybody that participated in Flash Chat Live. Thank you for all your incredible answers. Okay, that's why I love doing this, because you guys have such well thought out answers. So check this out on the podcast, check it out on the YouTube video, follow me on Twitter, and definitely jump in if you can participate live, okay? That's it for this week, and I will see everybody next week for the next episode of Flash Chat. Like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell, and enjoy.